Let's see if I'll boil alive before I'm done with this video. 6 months and 45 books into 2025, and now it's time for us to talk about the good, the bad, and the great. Hi, I'm Annie, and today I'm here to talk about the 45 books that I've already read in 2025. That is actually a lie. I'm not going to be here talking about all those 45 books. I will introduce all the 45 books that I have read, but I will be talking about more in depth and ranking my 32 new reads of the year, from the worst to the best. But I will first quickly go through my rereads. So I've reread this year quite a few books. I do really love rereading, but we haven't got time for everything today. The books that I've reread this year are To Be Taught If Fortunate, the Mary Devana Headley translation of Beowulf, The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien, Hal Kaddish and Other Poems by Allen Ginsberg, The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, The Two Gentlemen of Verona by William Shakespeare, Oedipus Rex by Sophocles, Candide or Optimism by my man Voltaire, Collected Fairy Poems by Everyman's Library Pocket Poets, and The Inferno by Dante Alighieri. I have also read 2 non-fiction books completely, which I just couldn't rank. I don't know where to rank these because these are more informational. I have ranked some of the non-fiction books that I read this year, but I could not rank these 2. I don't know what to do with them. I enjoyed them both. One of them is for university, and that is Philosophy of Language. It was a good introduction into philosophy of language, and there's nothing more to say. And the other one is Magna Carta, the Making and Legacy of the Great Charter by Dan Jones, and I really actually enjoyed this quite a bit. I think I read it in a single sitting, but I still don't know where to rank it. It feels just weird to rank it. So those are the books that I'm not going to be talking about more than I've just talked about them. And now let's jump into my ranking of my reads of 2025 so far. Starting off with my least favourite book that I read so far in 2025, which is The Taming of the Shrew by William Shakespeare. Now, I talk about this a bit more, I think, in depth in my mid-year biggest freakout tag that I came out with last week. In essence, I did not enjoy this. It is the first William Shakespeare play that I've disliked. I have read a couple that I've not liked, but this is the first one I've genuinely disliked. I actually read this twice this year because I want to give it kind of a second chance after reading the introduction and marks on it, but it did not change my opinion. Maybe I appreciated it a bit more in a reread, but it did not change my opinion. This is not a play that I like, and I'm not alone. It's a very controversial Shakespeare play. I thought there was still a possibility that I would still enjoy it. I did not go into it expecting to hate it, even though I knew that it had its problems. Those problems just like, they aggravated me. They aggravated me too. I understand why they aggravated other people as well. But beyond just having problematic aspects to it, I just didn't enjoy it. Like beyond the things that really annoyed me about it, which is that basically this play is about the taming of the shrew being Kate or Catherine, who is a shrew. She is a woman who expresses her opinions and is considered to be very rude and brash and etc. and unmarriable in essence, but her father, or her and her sister's father, has said that, you know, they can't date, neither can marry. I was thinking about the plot of The 10 Things I Heard About You. The younger can marry before the elder one marries, and so they bring this gentleman, I suppose. I would not call him a gentleman, but there's this person to marry and tame Catherine so that their younger sister can marry. And it is meant to be a farce. It's not kind of meant to be necessarily taken so seriously. But I don't think it really matters because it's still, like I said in the mid-year update, what we're laughing at is still not funny to me, because we're not laughing at the taming. Oh, well, we are laughing at the taming, that is a problem. We're not laughing at the men who are doing the taming like this is a silly thing. No, we are laughing alongside with them, though it is a farce. It's not like completely serious. Still, it's like we're laughing basically at Catherine, we're laughing at the shrew and the way she's being kind of changed and treated, and it just didn't sit right with me. But like I said, beyond that, I just didn't find the play that interesting. I didn't really care for the plot. beyond that neither. It was just a unenjoyable play for me. William Shakespeare can't do everything right, and he certainly did not do this right. And I suppose that is the only book that I've disliked this year, because my 31st ranked book is a book that I didn't like, but it's not one that I disliked, and I can definitely understand why it would really work for someone else. And that is Gwynne by Juno Dawson. Now, I might have made a mistake with starting the series with this book. It's a prequel that was released as the third book, kind of like in the order of release, but I thought I could start here because it's a prequel and I just wanted something quick to like introduce me to the series and to Juno Dawson's writing, but I just didn't vibe with it. To be honest, I was just really not interested. The writing style was not for me. It was very much like very straightforward, quite, I don't want to say simplistic because that sounds rude, but what I mean is like simple, not in a rude sense, just like not elaborate, elaborate and kind of just like this very, I don't want to use the word flowery, but I like pizzazz. And when I was thinking of Juno Dawson, I was like, oh, it's queer, it's like, it's extravagant, it's very camp. There's nothing camp about this book. I don't know if there's something camp about the rest of the series, but it's just, it honestly felt boring to me. I felt just very disappointed by it, and it's a very short book, and I thought it was way too short because it basically just started running towards a conclusion from the very beginning, and I could not connect with any of the characters or the story at all, and I also just don't know if this is my type of a story. I don't know if this type of a witchy narrative just really interests me. I like the more aesthetic, witchy, kind of maybe 60s vibe or the fairy tale vibe, and this was neither. So yeah, it wasn't whimsical. Yeah, whimsical. It was not whimsical enough, it wasn't camp enough, and it was not, honestly, it wasn't queer enough for a queer book. My 30th book is a very, very different vibe. that is Ideas One by Edmund Husserl. I technically read most of this last year, but I finished it in January, so we're going to talk about it obviously now. But yeah, I can't pronounce Husserl's name. Husserl? Edmund Husserl. I just basically realised that phenomenology is not my type of philosophy. It's really not. I've got actually several friends who are doing their master's degrees on I can't say the word phenomenology. But it's just really not my cup of tea. I don't think continental philosophy, at least like theoretical kind of this side of continental philosophy is my cup of tea either. And well, I'm not a continental philosopher. I'm very, very, very firmly within my like academic fields. I deal with analytical philosophy, analytical metaphysics, and philosophy of science. So this is kind of like this was very much a step outside of my comfort zone, and we could see that I was out of my comfort zone. This was not where I'm comfortable. I really liked the course. I liked the discussions that we had about this book, the book itself. If it wasn't for the course, I would have never finished this book. It was a challenge to get through. I don't think there's anything else for me to say. This is not me commenting on what was saying that it's bad or whatever. And I'm really glad that I did read this. And I gained definitely, knowledge and understanding and a different viewpoint from this book, but I didn't enjoy it. Just not for me. Moving on. Next book is a book that I think we're coming towards the category of I liked they were mixed bag. I think the following ones are a mixed bag, because I liked a lot of the books I've read this year, but I finally finished this series and I read Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse. It is indeed Rebecca Roanhorse. I finally finished the series, can't remember the series title, but I've listened to all of these books about the time they've came out. I don't know if this came out last year, I think maybe, or was it this year? Well, within the year of me reading it. And I really enjoyed the first book way back when it came out. I think it was called Black Sun. And then when the second book came out, there were elements to it that the elements that I saw in the first book that I still enjoyed, but I think it very much fell into that mid-book slump. But I think my main problem with the third book was not that I disliked it, but that it had been so long since I'd enjoyed and read the first book, and even since I read the second book, that I could genuinely barely remember anything about the second book. I don't know if it's just like my brain does not kind of save memories of less enjoyable things, but I can really like properly remember everything that happened in the first book and all that I loved, and I could explain you the plot and everything, even though it came out I think in 2020 or something. I can't genuinely remember almost anything about the second book, and that really created just kind of this like void. But I also think that like, because it's been so long, I was really not connected with the characters, and I only started, you know, really connecting with the story again and connecting with the characters again when we were almost at the end. And though I really still appreciated the story, I think that the conclusion that the story came to, I think this is a good book and a good series. I just didn't really, I felt very distant, and I could not appreciate it. And it's like, I know I've read it and I'm glad that I've read it, but it barely feels like I have even read it. It still feels like I've only read the first book and I've, you know, heard about the second and the third book. But in it here kind of feels wrong, because I do think it's a good book. I think Rebecca Roanhorse is a good fantasy author, and there was a lot of good in here. In the end, it just fell flat for me. The next book though, I named my biggest disappointment of the year, and it's not really a book, it's a short story. It's The Answer Is No by Fredrik Backman, who is my favourite author, or top 2 favourite authors. I love Fredrik Backman. I basically rated everything by him 5 stars, and I'm pretty sure this is the only one that I've not rated 4.5 or 5 stars. And I read this like a 3-star read, so it's not the worst. It's not the worst. These are books that, like, you know, the hair. I felt annoyed by a lot of this, which is really weird, because I genuinely typically love Fredrik Backman, and I even though his type of humour is not the most for me, I can really appreciate it, because it feels fun, and it feels honest, and it feels comforting. It feels like I don't know, I don't want to call Fredrik Backman a wise old man, but there's an aspect of a wise old man about him. He's a storyteller of the town who understands people like no one else. He understands humanity and emotions, and he really can convey them well with words in a way that connects, in a way that makes you laugh, then cry, then laugh, then cry, and all the while you're excited and interested and just captivated. None of that really came through with this book. I could see what he was doing, but it didn't connect. There was a severe disconnect, which I've never before felt with Fredrik Backman. It's another philosophy book, I know. Another one that I've read for a course, and that is Groundwork of the Metaphysics of Morals by Kant, Immanuel Kant. And I'm really glad that I've read Kant, because I've generally vibe with Kant's philosophy quite a bit, which is a bit of a red flag. The thing with this short little book, I know it's not like the main one, it's kind of the first one, I think, which is why we read it for the course. I knew most of the stuff he was talking about in here. I've read it before, I've experienced it before, I have it in my mind, I've been taught it, you know? And the way Kant writes, it's not compelling, it's so tedious, it's like really difficult to get through, which is why it felt like Kant's writing was doing a disservice to Kant's philosophy of ethics. But I'm so glad that I read it, and I still liked aspects of it in terms of his philosophy and as such. But the actual writing of Kant, I would not recommend reading this book. I'm gonna be honest. If you're really interested in philosophy, if you're really interested in ethics and like getting, you know, the basic ethical education, sure, read it. But I think I gained the most out of reading the introduction, but the actual work itself, it was just horrid. And it's like, it's so absolutely, I'm sorry, I don't vibe with Enlightenment era philosophy. Like, the way they write it is so tedious. It's so tedious. I can't deal with it. I think like this is content. I don't think I like the Europeans that much. I mean like continental Europeans, the Germans especially. It's just, you can express it in a way that is clearer and gets your point across better, but you're just, I think like these people, they are being inaccessible, they are being pretentious. You're not making your whole philosophy more intellectual by, you know, making it ununderstandable. You're just making it ununderstandable, you know? I think from here we're going to move on to books that I genuinely enjoyed. And the first book of the books that I genuinely enjoyed is Adrift in Currents Clean and Clear by mcguire, which is the last, not the last, but like the last that has come out of the what is this series called? The Wayward Children series, which is a series that I think I've been reading since 2020. I will always pick up these books, but most often they fall kind of like in the middle ground. It's like I enjoyed it, but I didn't really love it. It's like I'm excited. I start reading it. I'm like, oh, I love mcguire's writing. I love so many different aspects about this book. But in the end, I always feel slightly disappointed. There have been a couple of volumes that I've genuinely loved, but most often it's like 7 out of 10. It's good, but it could have been great, and it's just not. And one thing that I've noticed a couple of times that really happened with this one is I really enjoyed the first half when we were actually on Earth before, because the series obviously we follow these children who are transported into these worlds throughout these doors. They find their doors. You know, usually these are, you know, unwanted, lonely feeling children who feel out of place, who feel like they don't belong. So they find these doors to these worlds where they fit, basically. And usually it ends with them, you know, being transported back into our world. There is this like fantastic, it's a fantastic idea, basically. Like the whole idea of this series is so brilliant, and you would think that I would just like love it to the moon and back. Like I said with it, it feels like I love the aspect, I love the part where we're in our world, because mcguire writes about children and like the unbelongingness of children, of teenagers, so well, and her writing is beautiful. But when we get transported to the other world, it feels like we're repeating the same story with every book. I mean, like, there is a formula. Whether the book will work or whether it won't work for me or for you will depend on how much you enjoy the world. And with these last worlds, I've just felt like these are not my worlds. I would not want to be lost here. And because we're repeating the same story, and nothing kind of like that interesting, I think, is done with the character dynamics or with kind of the background after we've been transported in the story. It changes from this character-driven narrative to a more plot-driven narrative in my mind. And if I don't care about the world in which we're immersed in, the plot, I don't really care about it that much. So it's a weird thing, because it's a fantasy, like it's a portal fantasy story, and I end up liking the part where we're not in the fantasy world better. But mcguire is still a great writer, and I'm waiting for that. And I'm waiting for another one which I just feel like I absolutely belong in. Then I finally continued reading Terry Pratchett's Discworlds with Sourcery. Then I picked this like up last year. I think I read like 100 pages, and then this year I was like, I really should continue. So I finally finished this book. And I enjoyed it. I really liked Discworld. This was not one of my favourite ones. I like following Rincewind and Luckage, but I just like it. I don't think I have much more to say. I like these books. The humour is really for me. They're a fun time, but with the works that I don't feel like I love or like enjoy more than typical, I just have a good time, and I don't have anything else to say about it. It's a good time. I enjoyed Terry Pratchett, and I can't wait to get more into later works, which I will enjoy much better. But this is just it's a solid one in the series, but it's not going to be one that's going to stick with me. And then we have two books. What is this? Two books? We have two books, which I'm going to be talking about like together, because they are first book and the second book in a series, and I kind of felt very much the same about these two. So places 23 and 24 go to Pretty Little Liars and Flawless, which are the first two books in the Pretty Little Liars series. But I was really surprised by how much I was enjoying this series, and I definitely want to continue. Obviously it's not going to be like, oh my god, this is a really great thing, one of my favourite things ever, but it's just a really fun time. It's like I'm getting the drama, I'm getting the tea. It's like it's a fun time. It reminds me of being young. Not like I'm not young, but like being an early teenager and watching Gossip Girl. I think I watched Gossip Girl ages like 10 to 12, so I don't know, early teenager, but like being really young and watching something that is, you know, gossipy and etc. Everyone is so unlikable in these books, like much more unlikable than in the TV series, and the plot is quite different as well. But I think that just makes it so much more enjoyable. Just kind of like hating everyone, but also loving it. Loving it all is what makes this series work really well, and I can't wait to continue. I think I'm going to continue listening to these audiobooks when the university year begins. Then we have another series that I've continued. I've actually done really well with continuing series this year, which is bizarre because I don't usually do this well at all. I'm usually rubbish at continuing series, but I continued a series I was actually not even meant to continue in the first place, and I read Blessed Water by Margot douaihy. I think that's how I pronounce it, I'm not sure. But this, they say, is a mystery book series, and I really don't listen to or read a lot of mystery books. I don't listen to or read any thrillers, but mystery sometimes I'm like a bit intrigued. But this follows a punk nun, a punk Catholic nun. She's also a detective. She's a punk nun detective, and it's fun. I listened to the first book a couple of years ago, and I was like, that was fun time, but you know, it wasn't, you know, it was just what the fuck, I can't speak. Just like an alright mystery book. I decided to actually continue because I was just like, why not? And yeah, it's nothing. It's not like the best mystery ever. I don't actually think like the mystery aspect is what really makes it fun. I think it's the character. No, it's not just a punk non-detective. It's a queer punk non-detective, and I think it's just fun. Another one of these series which is just a simple short book that is fun to listen to kind of ease the year. Then we have got a short story that I think came out this year, but it was written quite a bit ago, and it is Mary Ventura and the Ninth Kingdom by Sylvia Plath. I've not read The Bell Jar yet, but I think I want to maybe read it this year. But I came across this because I didn't even realise that this was published, because I thought that, you know, obviously it has been. The Bell Jar has been Sylvia Plath's only work, but this having come out, I decided to quickly read it because it was like an hour, a 45-minute long audiobook, and I thought it was a fun time. I don't really have much else to say about it. I found it intriguing and captivating, and I can't wait to read The Bell Jar, but it's a short story which I would recommend reading. It's kind of, I don't know how to categorize it. I don't think I should say anything. If you're at all interested in 20th century literature, even if you're not, it's a 45-minute book, just listen to it. I think you're gonna be really interested and intrigued. Then we have a book of which I don't have much to say. I just put it because I did not know where else to put it. I think this felt like a fit in place, but I read through medieval English verse. I like Middle Ages, I like medieval verse, but I don't like all of medieval verse. And I had to read through The Pell again, and guess what? I still don't like it, and I don't think I will ever like it. But I think I genuinely enjoyed this translation more than Tolkien's. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I like Middle Ages. I think that's all I have to say. I like this type of show. Then I listened to a fantasy book, a first book in the series, which is Malice by Gwynne. I'm really doing great with names today for some reason. I'm usually rubbish. This is a first book in a fantasy quartet, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's a quartet. And I did start the second book in the series, and I did not finish. I didn't kind of DNF it on purpose. I kind of put it on pause because I didn't feel like reading it. And now it's been several months, and honestly, I kind of don't want to finish this series. How I felt about this series after finishing the first book, which is a very character-driven novel. There used to be a war between humans and giants, but that was a long time in the past. Now we're in the future, and there's a prophecy. Wow, surprising. And a returned war with the giants. I'm not gonna lie, not the most interesting, captivating setting for me. It's a very I'm pretty sure it's quite like Scandinavian Norman inspired. Not my type, like not my history period. I like the romantic era. Obviously, you know, romantic, but here I'm talking more about the romantic Middle Ages. I love the romantic Middle Ages. I love the Renaissance inspired fantasy. That's my cup of tea. I like that. This is not my type of history period, which is I think one of the reasons why I didn't really connect with it this much. It sounds like I'm criticizing the book, so you might be wondering why is it this high? Because I actually quite liked the first book. It took a while, but because it's a character driven, I really came to connect with the characters, and I really came to care about the story by the time that the plot started, you know, plotting. And I think a lot of it really worked. I was really captivated by different POVs that there were, especially two of the main ones, the biggest ones, which really had me, you know, they had me intrigued, they had me impacted. And I think if we would have just continued with the story similarly to how we did in the first book, like following quite a few characters, but this like intriguing build-up of this story, I probably could have really enjoyed the rest of this series, especially now that, you know, in the first book we really developed and the plot only started at the end of the first book. The second book, we really started introducing many more characters, and apparently they're going to be way, I can't say more, I don't know what I'm saying, way more POVs in the following books, and I don't think I'm going to be finishing this. I think I started talking more about why I DNF this series, but I really enjoyed the first book. I think it was an intriguing setup for a fantasy series that just didn't end up being my thing, but I'm really glad that I read the first book and I really appreciated it. But let's move on. I think it's time to move on to another book a short story by Seanan McGuire, which is In Mercy Reign. And I don't know what is it with Seanan McGuire's short stories set in the Wayward Children world. I've enjoyed all of them much more than most of the books, and this was another one that I really enjoyed. But to be fair, this short story is about one of the main characters of the second book, which is my second favourite book in this entire series. But this was a fun read, an enjoyable addition to, you know, the series as a whole. I don't have much else to say about it, but I really enjoyed this short story, and I kind of wish we got more of, you know, this type of Seanan McGuire Wayward Children in the latter, longer, they're novellas, but like longer books as well. Another short story is followed by this. I usually don't read this many short stories, but for some reason I've read short stories by authors that I liked this year. But I read Below Zero by Ali Hazelwood, which really reminded me of why I need to continue with her like longer books as well. I've only read The Love Hypothesis way back when it came out. One of my favourite romance books. I loved it. It was brilliant, it was great. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna read the three short stories that came out before I continue with her longer books. Last time I read one of these short stories was when it came out in 2023, 2 years ago, 2023 I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I really need to read the third one so I can actually read a longer book by Ali Hazelwood, because she writes the type of romance that I love. I don't know what is it about her books. I think it's partly the STEM romance just really works for me as a, well, I can't call myself a STEM girly anymore because I'm a liberal arts student, but I am a STEM girly. I'll always be a STEM girly, a STEM girl. And yeah, just the love to hate. Something about the way she writes just really works for me. Like it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Not everyone's gonna grin and chuckle like I do, but I definitely do. And I think part of the reason is that her romance really feels like you're reading fanfiction. And as someone who used to religiously read fanfiction in middle school, it works for me. It really just works for me. I read Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Guess what? I enjoyed this. I'm really bad at talking about 4-star reads. I should have pointed out that we've moved way since a couple of books back. We've moved from these are good, you know, these are solid recommendations. It is an absurd time, but it's such a fun time. Like, you can really see how quick Lewis Carroll is. He just has got this fun brain on his head, and I wish I'd read these books when I was a kid, because I would have loved these. And I think I understand why I didn't love the Alice in Wonderland like animated films, but why this would have really worked for me. That was, I don't know what I'm saying. This is just something I don't think can be adapted as it is. I think you can take the vibes, you can take the elements, you can take the absurdity, but you can't take the logical language. Like, it's like the brilliance of this book is so tied to its language, and how it's just so brilliant. As a philosopher, as a lover of logic, I love this book. It was just a fun time. I listened to it, and it was just an enjoyable listen, and I recommend it, though it's not going to be it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, definitely. Then I read the newest book by Zoboi, who's one of my favourite authors, which is Skin, or Skin. It's probably, weirdly enough, my least favourite of her works, but that is because I've loved all of her works. And she just manages to capture the teenage experience like no one else, like the highs and the lows. And the thing about this work especially is that neither of these two sisters, because it's about these two sisters who they are creatures of a certain type. It's mythology based, and it's her first fantasy book, and I didn't even realize it, because it really just reads like the rest of her works, but obviously with a fantasy magical well, no, she has had one magical realism book, so it reads like her works with a fantasy element to it, and it worked really well. But neither of these two sisters, who when this book is just how should I explain it? I don't think you need to. Just, if you like YA books, everyone who still reads YA, and I don't really read YA, I read a very few, like the YA books I read are very few and far between, and Zoboi is just one of the authors. She's absolutely brilliant at what she does, and whilst I would love to get an adult book from her, I think it's brilliant that we have someone like her writing for a young adult audience, because she writes about such important themes and captures, like I said, the teenage experience, and the themes that kind of sometimes are thought to be like not necessarily too difficult, but yeah, sometimes a bit like they are put through this filter when they are expressed to a teenage audience. Or else sometimes we get like teenage works which are just like should be adult, you know. There's no middle ground, and she's the middle ground that works really well. It's really books for teenagers that don't treat teenagers like they're dumb and like they don't understand and can't deal with these matters, but it also doesn't just like force adult themes upon a teenage experience, upon a teenage readership. She pushes teenage themes that just, I'm not saying anything smart, but these are just so brilliant. And what I was saying is that neither of these two sisters, neither of these two main characters are necessarily likable, but they're so real and honest, and teenagers are not nice. I don't like who I was as a teenager, and I think most of us shouldn't like the people we were as a teenager when we're no longer teenagers. That is part of the teenage experience. And also her language it's so beautiful, it's so beautiful. It always manages to get to my heart. And I think this book was just, she knows how to write, she just knows how to write a good story. I don't have much to say about the next book, but I read volume 8 of Lore Olympus. I really love Lore Olympus. I binged through the volumes 1 to 7 last year, and I was so annoyed, you know, that just like, I didn't want to binge like the rest of it on Webtoon, so I kind of put it on pause. So I only binged through and read through the volume 8 portion on Webtoon, but I loved it so much. I kind of want to binge the rest of it, but I'm also like kind of dumb because I don't want it to be over. But I love Hades and Persephone, and I just read through my note, and my note was like, it's good, it's great, but it's like it's soft landing. So that's why it's not higher, even though I love the series. It's a soft landing to a continuation to a next part in this tale, in this series. The next book I ranked as my number 13. We're nearing the top 10. Is another philosophy book. Wow, and that is I'm incapable of pronouncing this. Nicomachean Ethics. Nico's Ethics by Aristotle. I like Aristotle. I'm gonna be honest with you, I like Aristotle. Also the stuff that I do is near Aristotelianism, so it makes sense, but I also just like reading Aristotle, and I thought it was good. Did I agree with Aristotle on everything? I definitely didn't, but I like the way he writes about ethics. I also like the fact that ancient philosophy and medieval philosophy is readable. This is readable. You understand what they're saying, and they can still express complex thoughts. I'm so pissed off at where Europe went after the Middle Ages, or at least where the continental Europe went with philosophy writing after the Middle Ages. But yeah, this was enjoyable. I liked it. Like I said, I don't know what more there was to say. I think if you're interested in ethics, you should really pick this up. It's a really important work. It did like change my life. There's one course mate who's in his 30s, and he said when he read this as a young guy, it really like shaped his view of ethics a lot. I think it didn't do like anything quite so tragic. What word am I looking for? Well, dramatic for me, but it was a good read. It was a good read. Oh, okay. So for some reason I've like piled up these non-fiction books here next to each other, but I then listened to the autobiography by Chris Hadfield, which is the book An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth, and I really liked it. I don't know what to say about non-fiction books. I found it inspiring, entertaining, enlightening. Obviously I've always known who's Chris Hadfield, as someone who thought she was going to go into physics and didn't. He's always been like, I think we've all seen the video where he's playing his guitar in space. I hope you have. If you've not, just Google Chris Hadfield, David Bowie. But I really liked seeing his story, and like I said, it felt very inspiring. And always when I do this and I listen to stuff like this or read stuff like this in the winter, I'm always like, oh, maybe I went the wrong way. Maybe I should have gone into physics. Maybe I've made a mistake. And then summer comes and I'm like, no, I did not. I'm really glad that I'm where I am, but I still love physics. And in another life, I could have worked for ESA, but this is not the life we are living. We are living the philosopher's life. 11 is a very difficult one. I listened to it very recently, late last month, and that is Notes on John by Joan Didion, which is a book which is very difficult to talk about because it is her notes on therapy sessions she had in the early 2000s about her daughter, and they are all addressed to her husband John. But these were published after she died. They were published this year as a book. The ethics of, publishing something like this, it's very difficult. It's very difficult. I don't have the answer. Is it unethical? Maybe to a degree, definitely. Should you read it? I think that's up to you. But why is it this high? Honestly, because in the end, it has little to do with Joan's relationship with her daughter and her husband. I just found this an incredibly moving piece of writing. You can't even call it non-fiction. It's not fiction. It's not like nothing I've ever read before, but it really just made me think a lot about myself and my own relationship with those around me, like my mother. With my mother and other people in my life, and I found it a very important piece of writing that I would definitely return to it. It was a very, like I said, impactful listen, but I don't know what else there is to say. I think depending on who you are, you can either gain a lot from this or really not, and I think it's up to you. Like if you're interested in Joan Didion, And I think, yeah, if you're interested in journaling and her writings, I think you need to look at yourself and ask yourself whether you wanna read this or not, and whether you can kind of excuse the unethical nature of it, or the possibly unethical nature of it. But I gained a lot from it, and I appreciated my experience with the work. I can't really, you can't even call it a work, like that's the whole thing. My experience with the writings. This was very much meant to be a single video, but I yapped for too long, as I do, and so we're going to return next week with my 5-star reads of 2025 so far, or rather my 4.5 star reads and my 5-star reads, but like the ones that I've rated 5-star on Goodreads, the best books. They're, I think, top 10 best books that I've read so far this year. So I can't wait to see you then, but thanks so much for watching, and I want to hear what is your worst book of the year. Not the best, but what is the worst book you've read so far? What made you mad? What made you, what just like awakened emotions in you that are not positive? What is that book? What do you want to dis-recommend? But I will see you next week, and as for today, I will say hey. Well, oh my god, I'm trying to bloody roll with this. Should I do it like, okay, well, hey.